Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's no filter Q&A with question number one. Nick, how can you eat more food and still lose fat? You need to retrain your metabolism. Okay. Now, you can't do that overnight. The trick here is to add on more muscle. The more muscle that you add on, the more food you can consume. Now, when I say food, I mean clean whole food sources. I don't mean processed junk food. I mean clean whole food sources, lean chicken breasts, cod, tilapia, salmon. If you're someone who's more going for the vegetarian route, you can be looking for more of uh, asparagus, broccoli. You can go for some whole wheat pasta. You can even go for some healthy fats with omega-3 eggs, avocado, natural peanut butter, and so on. Okay. So the trick here, though, is to add on more muscle. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that as you continue to progress in the gym with your weights, you slowly start to increase your overall caloric intake. Okay. It's not something that you just do overnight, though. So if I'm working with someone who's trying to put on weight, for example, they're trying to put on muscle. Each week when I'm working on them on their nutritional plan, I will slowly start to increase certain macronutrients. Not necessarily all three macronutrients, but for example, I might increase their protein from 6 ounces to 8 ounces per meal. I might increase their fats from, let's say, 5 grams to 8 grams per meal. Okay. I might decrease their carbohydrates from 40 grams to 30 grams per meal. So it really depends on how the individual is looking and how they're responding to the plan. Okay. So, and what I mean by that is how they're responding in the gym and outside the gym, how they're looking, how they're feeling, how they're performing. Are their weights increasing in the gym? Are they decreasing? Do they have a lot of energy? Are they sleeping well? So there is that fine line. But yes, you can actually retrain your metabolism to allow yourself to eat more food, but you have to build muscle. I can tell you right now that when I was not training for the last 30 plus days after my hernia surgery, I wasn't eating as much food because I wasn't hungry. Okay. I didn't lose muscle, but I wasn't as active. As soon as I started training again, I was hungry because my metabolism started to go again. Okay. So the trick is to stay active, stay fit, get lots of exercise in, whether that's resistance training, cardiovascular training, or a combination of the two. And that will allow you to consume more calories. Okay. So yes, you can still lose body fat while consuming lots of food. It's actually a mistake, in my opinion, to consume less food if the goal is to lose body fat, because then you risk losing muscle. Yes, you should be consuming less junk food. Yes, you should be consuming less processed food. Yes, you should be consuming less sugar, but you shouldn't necessarily be consuming less good whole food sources that are full of healthy, good for you micronutrients. Okay. So that's a mistake. Okay, because what happens with people who just start dropping calories on a weekly basis when they're trying to lose weight, once they hit a plateau, there's nowhere left to go. If you're on a 1200 calorie diet, you're pretty much starving yourself every day, especially if you're throwing in 30 to 45 minutes of cardio on top of that, an hour of weights each day. You're doing that 5, 6 days a week. You're going to be a very grumpy, irritable person. Okay, you're going to have very low energy, no libido. You probably won't sleep well because your body needs those additional macronutrients and more importantly the micronutrients for your body to perform properly. Okay, so it's a mistake in my opinion to just constantly keep dropping calories and taking out more and more food when the goal is to lose body fat. The more intelligent way to approach this is making sure that 90% of the food that you consume is clean whole food sources. And if your goal is to lose fat, it really should be like 95% of the food you consume, and you have that one cheat meal a week is clean whole food sources, and just watching to make sure that everything's going well in the gym as far as your weight training is going. You have lots of energy, and that's a sign of a good diet. Okay. A sign of a good diet is not just losing weight. Okay. Because any diet will make you lose weight. A sign of a good diet is a diet that's going to allow you to lose body fat while building and preserving muscle and allowing you to have sustainable energy throughout the day and not have to rely on stimulants like caffeine or ephedrine, whatever it may be. Okay. So you want to make sure that your diet's dialed in correctly. If you don't know how to do that, say it time and time again, work with a professional that can help you and will help you troubleshoot, especially when things get tough. Okay. Someone that can learn your body, whether you're an endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, combination of two or three, whatever it may be, learn your body and program accordingly for your goals, your lifestyle, and your genetics. All right. Okay, next question. Nick, what should you eat immediately after a workout? Well, first of all, you don't need to eat immediately after a workout. That's a misconception. And I've talked about this in the past about the post-workout shakes, and that's all nonsense. That was brought in by the supplement industries who were trying to sell their protein shakes. Okay. So you don't need to consume food immediately after your workout. My recommendation is to get something in, though, 2 to 3 hours post-workout. Okay. Don't let it go longer than that because then you do risk your body going into somewhat of a catabolic state. Okay. Where the body starts to eat up muscle. Because remember, your body will always burn muscle before it burns fat. Always. Okay. So the goal is to make sure that you replenish those muscle storages. And how you do that, you want to make sure you're getting in lots of protein, moderate amount of carbs and a moderate amount of fats. So usually a good post-workout meal that I recommend to people, if you're a meat eater, something like lean chicken breasts and maybe some white rice or brown rice, and throw in a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil or natural peanut butter, cashew butter, almond butter, whatever. That combination of proteins, carbs, and fats works really well, especially because a lot of people, they'll notice that right after workout, a lot of people are not hungry right away, but usually after about an hour or two, people start to notice that their appetite starts to increase. And that makes sense because you just exerted a lot of energy. So, of course, you are going to be hungry. That's why I recommend that 2 to 3 hour window for most people. Okay. So you don't have to drive into the protein shakes right away after a workout. That's nonsense. You don't need to do that. I've talked about how I don't even consume protein shakes. I don't believe in them. There's no reason that if you want to have them, you can, but they're no better for you than whole food sources. So don't kid yourself. They're just more convenient. Okay. So just make sure that you're doing a combination of fats, protein, carbs for post-workout. And for pre-workout, I know you didn't ask about pre-workout, but I'm just going to comment on that quickly. For pre-workout, I do recommend, if you're someone who likes to eat pre-workout, that is, just a complex carbohydrate source like oatmeal, brown rice, white rice, quinoa, and a lean protein source. So a very lean protein source, again, could be the chicken breast, turkey breast, could be egg whites. So I generally recommend people try to avoid fats pre-workout because fats take longer for the body to digest. So save your fats for post-workout because the last thing you want is to be training and your body's trying to digest this food. So a lean protein source combined with a complex carb is very easy to digest on the body. And so you shouldn't have an upset stomach or you shouldn't feel nauseous or lethargic while you're training. And that's an optimal way to feel while you're working. So make sure that your pre-workout meal is dialed in if you eat pre-workout, because a lot of people train, 6, 7 in the morning, they don't eat, that's fine. And just make sure that post-workout meal, in my opinion, comes within at least that 2 to 3 hour window and combined of proteins, fats, and carbs. All right. Okay. Nick, how do you know if you're getting enough micronutrients? Actually, that's a good question. A lot of time I get asked about calories and macronutrients, but not enough people ask about micronutrients. And micronutrients, I talked about this before, is the quality of the food that you're consuming. Okay. So as I said, whether your goal is to lose fat or build muscle, in my personal opinion, 90% of the food you should be consuming on a regular basis is clean food. Yes, you can go out and you can have, a pizza. Yes, you can go out have burger and fries, or you want to stay in and have like a couple cookies, whatever. That's fine. But 90% of the food you should be consuming should be clean food. And this is not just for the aesthetics component. This is just for overall health, well-being, and how you feel. And I'm a true believer that what you put into your body reflects on how, not just how you look, but how you perform, how you think, how you interact with other people. Okay. So I've always relied on whole, clean food sources to give me lots of energy, to make me more productive with my business, to allow me to sleep better, recover better, train better in the gym. Okay. So I don't rely on stimulants. I don't need to have a cup of coffee as soon as I wake up in the morning. I don't need to have a pre-workout shake before I work out. Okay. I rely on clean whole food sources to get me through my day. Without those foods, without that high quality of micronutrients, I'm probably not going to be able to perform at optimal levels. I won't think clearly. I won't lift heavy. And honestly, I just won't be able to get through my day without having to rely on an espresso or coffee or, down a couple like pre-workout shakes. And that's the worst thing is you don't want to have to rely on these stimulants. So I always think you can never get enough micronutrients. Okay. You can never get enough high quality micronutrients. So as long as you stick to that rule that 90% of the food you consume are clean, whole food sources, you should be okay. Now, how do you distinguish between what's clean and what's dirty? Well, I use a simple rule of thumb. The less ingredients in your food, the better. Okay. So the less ingredients that you buy or you consume in food, like if you buy, for example, you go to oatmeal, there's not many ingredients in oatmeal, just oats. That's it. Okay. So that's good. But when you start buying these foods that are overly processed and they're sold in the frozen section, you look at the ingredients and God, it goes on and on. It's like two paragraphs of ingredients. That to me is not a clean whole food source. It's full of chemicals. Okay, so you should be looking at nutritional labels. You should be reading for sugar content. That's also important. And I tell my clients all the time, if it contains more than 5 grams of sugar, and I don't care if it's natural sugar, put it back. Okay, you want to save it for a cheat meal, go ahead. But if you are serious about your diet and you want to feel good and you want to look good, you have to dial it in. Okay, there's no like meet me halfway and all this intuitive eating and all that. No, it's nonsense. Listen, if you're serious about how you look, how you feel, how you perform in the gym, it all starts with the diet. And I tell people who work with me on the nutritional plans, I'm like, look, I'm not going to meet you halfway and allow you to eat junk food every day. This is not going to work. Okay, I'm not the coach for you. I'm very serious about helping people get results. And in order for us to get those results, we have to make sure that diet is dialed in at least 90% of the time. And we can leave a little bit of wiggle room, that 10%, where if you want to put a splash of cream or milk in your morning coffee, you can do it. Okay. Or if you want to have 2 packets of brown sugar, you can have it. Okay. Or if you're someone who likes to have that one piece of dark chocolate square a day, sure, we'll fit it in. But I'm not going to be telling someone, yeah, you can have 3 slices of pizza every day if you like, and you can have poke bowls every day and all this nonsense. No, okay. Or you can have your morning muffin. That's garbage. So I won't work with someone like that because I'm like, my reputation's on the line here. I'm going to help you get from point A to point B. And if you're shitting the bed on your diet, we're not going to get there. So my job is to make sure that I'm keeping my clients accountable by giving the proper information and say, look, if you're serious and you want to bring your waist down from a 38 to a 32, this is what we have to do. Okay. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But I'm not the coach for you because it's not going to work. And I'm not going to work with someone who's not doesn't want those goals. Now, if someone wants to come in and say, I just want to feel good. I don't really care if I get my weight loss down or not. I just want to feel a bit better. That's fine. We can get their diet maybe dialed into like maybe 70%. That's okay. And I work with people like that too. That's fine. But when someone tells me, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds, or I want to bring my waist down by like 6 sizes, or I want to bring my dress size down by 4 sizes, I'm like, okay, well, how serious are you? How committed are you? Because this is what it's going to take. Okay. There's no bullshit. This is what it takes. Are you willing to do it? All right. Okay. Next question. Nick, what's the deal with gut health and fitness? Everyone seems to be so concerned about gut health these days. Well, as they should be. We have a lot of shitty foods out there, and most people follow really shitty diets. And that's why gut health has been such a huge, huge part of the fitness industry now, where you have people who are gut health experts. And honestly, I think that's good. I think it's important to have people like that, especially because a lot of people have food allergies and they don't even realize they have food allergies. I work with people who have food allergies to oatmeal, to quinoa. They can't eat it. So they can't tolerate it. Their digestive tract just can't handle it. Even though these are known to be like superfoods, those foods don't work for those individuals. So it's my job as their trainer slash coach to figure out, okay, well, we can't have quinoa or quinoa, sorry, but we can have brown rice, we can have yams, we can have sweet potatoes, we can have oatmeal, we can have cream of rice. Okay. So we give other options. Okay. But it's not like, well, too bad. You have to eat it because it's a superfood. No, if that person is experiencing diarrhea, bloating, constant pain in their digestive tract because they're having quinoa, well, obviously you're not going to eat it. That'd be stupid. Okay. So I think these gut health experts are important to have around. There's a lot of people that go to school for this now. There's someone that I actually refer out, especially if I don't know the answer. And I've always been like that. If I don't know the answer, I'll refer out to someone who I believe can help the individual. I'm going to stay in my lane. I know what I can do. I know what I'm capable of helping clients achieve. But if it goes beyond my scope of practice, I refer out. Okay. Um, I truly believe the reason why a lot of people have gut issues is because of the food that they eat. And if you go back to the basics, the less ingredients, the boring diets, those people who follow those type of diet plans, very rarely do they have gut issues. Now, you're going to have people who have different degrees of IBS, right? Irritable bowel syndrome. And for those people, I work with a lot of people like that too. And depending on how severe the IBS is, I work with people who have, I say, like level one IBS, where it's not terrible, but it's there. Just by cleaning up their diet a little bit, putting them on a bodybuilding diet, that generally works for those people and they're fine. They're like, no, I feel great. I'm not constantly running to the bathroom. I'm not feeling bloated. I don't have to lay down. I'm not in pain. Like, yeah, because you're following a bodybuilding diet. And then there's people who are like that level two, level three, where it's a little bit more severe. And for those people, even if you clean up their diet, they're still having some problems. Okay, and whether that be from caffeine or whether it be from even complex clean food for complex carbohydrates, lean protein sources. So for those people, I generally recommend they do work with a gut health expert because that person can do some trial and error and can figure out their bodies a little bit more. Sometimes they'll require the person or request that the person get some blood work done, which I think everyone should get blood work done, honestly. Just to actually have an idea, maybe your iron levels are low, your hemoglobin levels might be too high, your red blood cell count might be too low, your white blood cell count might be too low, whatever it may be. So that person has a general idea of what your blood work looks like and potentially even give you a food allergy test. Okay. So I think it's important that if you are having gut issues, that you either work with a dietitian, nutritionist, gut health expert, personal trainer slash coach that can help you because it's okay that you don't know everything about food. That's fine. That's like my job to know about that. Dietary nutrition is something that I really take an interest in. And so if I don't know the answer, like I said, I'll refer out. But not everyone knows everything about everything, right? And that's okay. So if you're struggling with your diet and you don't know what's going on, but you're constantly having gut issues, that's my recommendation. Work with someone that can help you. There are so many people who have come to work with me over the years and tell me that they have IBS. And honestly, as soon as we start cleaning up their diet, take out the dairy, take out the fruit, put in more complex carbs, take out the trans fats, put in more healthy fats, take out the fatty proteins, put in the lean proteins, all of a sudden those symptoms are gone. And they're like, oh my God, you're a genius. I'm like, I'm not a genius. We're just putting you on a basic diet plan. And like I said, for those people, those level one people, it works great. But for people with more complicated situations, like I said, that level two, level three, maybe they have Crohn's disease, colitis, whatever it may be, I do recommend they work with a gut health expert that can help them, dietitian, nutritionist that can guide them along the way. All right. Okay. Nick, do you need to eat every 2 or 3 hours? Absolutely not. More bro science. No. Now, if you're someone like me who eats a lot of food, it's easier to eat every 2 or 3 hours. It's not practical though, but it's just easier to get the food in. Now, if I'm working, for example, 10 hours in a row on the floor, which does happen quite a bit, I'm not going to be able to get food in. I might be able to get one meal in every 5 hours. What I'll do then, I'll just have a larger meal. Okay? Or I'll combine two of my meals. But the whole ideology of having to eat every 2 or 3 hours, that is more bro science. The body doesn't work like that. You're not going to lose muscle if you miss a meal. Okay. Now, what's going to happen though, it might affect the next day in the gym. You miss a meal and you miss two meals. That could impact your strength in the gym, how you transition to weights in the gym, just overall how you feel in the gym, your glycogen storages. So I do recommend that you don't skip meals, but you're not necessarily going to lose muscle if you miss one or two meals. No. Okay. So you don't have to stress about that. And the same thing, you don't have to eat every 2 or 3 hours. That came out in the 90s. There's no science backing any of these claims. These are like what claims that bodybuilders made over the years and supplement companies made. And I've done both. I've tried to eat every 2 or 3 hours. I've trained for shows where I ate every 5 hours. I trained for shows where I ate two or three meals a day and I still did okay. In my opinion, as long as you're getting all your meals in within a 24-hour window, you're good. And I do that with every single person I work with, whether I'm giving them 5 meals, 6 meals, 8 meals, 4 meals. I say, listen, I don't care when you have these meals. I don't even care what order you have these meals in. But as long as you can get all these meals in within a 24-hour window, we're good. And that really keeps things simple for people. And they like that. It gives them a little bit more flexibility. They're like, oh, I don't have to necessarily have oatmeal for breakfast. I can have that for dinner. And if I feel like having, I don't know, salmon and rice for breakfast, I can have that. Go ahead. Doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. Okay, so meal timing is irrelevant. Your meal order, in my opinion, is irrelevant. The only thing I do recommend, as I mentioned in one of the first questions, your pre-workout and post-workout meal. Pre-workout again, this is my recommendation. Don't consume any fats. And post-workout meal, consume a combination of lean protein, complex carbs, healthy fats. Other than that, I'd rotate all the meals around. Makes zero difference. Okay. And that's just from 22 plus years of doing this job now, working with people on their nutritional plans. I've noticed that I can still get people in shape, lose fat, build muscle, put their meals in any order they want, and have their meals whatever time of day they want, as long as they're getting all those meals within a 24-hour window. It works, plain and simple. All right. Okay. Nick, what's the difference between being fit and being healthy? Okay, well, it's here's a perfect example. Bodybuilders. There's a lot of bodybuilders out there who look fit. They've got six packs, strided pecs, big biceps, massive legs. But I can tell you from competing with a lot of these guys, they're not healthy. Okay. There's a lot of bodybuilders out there, and it's not just all the drugs. I mean, the drugs obviously are a huge component, but there's a lot of bodybuilders out there that are not fit. Their heart rate, their resting heart rates are like 90 beats per minute, which in my opinion is way too high. Okay. They don't do enough cardio. They rely too much on stimulants. They eat way too much food, way too much protein, which in my opinion is actually detrimental on the kidneys. So yes, you can consume too much protein. I know there's a lot of so-called experts out there say, no, you can't just keep consuming protein. Not true. Okay. There is actually scientific data suggesting that if you consume too much protein, that really puts a lot of stress on the kidneys. Okay. So you have to be intelligent and you have to approach your diet methodically with how you implement your protein, carbs, and fats into a structured nutritional plan. Okay. So you absolutely can do some long-term damage with your diet and your training if you don't do it correctly. So yeah, there's a lot of people that may look like they're fit, but on the inside, internally, they're not. And I can tell you, there's guys, like I said, I competed with backstage who had oxygen tanks. They couldn't breathe properly. There were guys I used to pose next to, and they were sweating profusely because they weren't in top shape cardiovascular wise. Okay. So I've seen this with a lot of that, not just even bodybuilders. I've seen people who go to the gym every day, especially those guys who carry around the big 4 liter things of water and think they're a bodybuilder. I'm like, they'll do one set every 5, 10 minutes and they have these massive guts. I'm like, that's not healthy. If you have a gut, that's not healthy, right? There's no reason why anyone should have a gut. And again, I'm not fat shaming people, but like, there's nothing healthy about a gut. Okay. There's nothing healthy about being a man and you're at 20% plus body fat. Nothing healthy about that. Okay. There's nothing healthy about being a woman and you're 22% or higher body fat. Nothing. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, not just externally, but internally. And that's why for me, not obviously, I've always, I should say, taken a huge responsibility into looking over my blood work, making sure I get my blood work done on a regular basis, at least once a year, usually twice a year. So I make sure that everything looks good. Okay. Making sure that I don't just work my muscles, but I also work my heart. So I'm working my cardiovascular endurance by making sure I'm always walking. And I walk a lot. God, I walk easily 2, sometimes 3 hours a day. So I'm constantly moving. I'm on my feet. So I'm making sure that I'm staying active. So even though that externally I look fit, I want to make sure that internally I'm healthy and everything's good. My resting heart rate is below 40 beats per minute. That's where I'd like to keep it. The less work your heart has to do, the better. Okay. Like I said, I know people who go to the gym every day and their resting heart rate's 90 beats per minute. I'm like, that's terrible. That puts way too much stress on your heart. Okay. So you just have to be smart with your training. You have to be dialed in with your diet. And you really have to make sure that you are doing your due diligence and you're being responsible. Get your blood work done. See what's going on. Check what your blood pressure is every once in a while. Here in Vancouver, we have a Shoppers Drug Mart. At least once a month, I'm in a Shoppers Drug Mart. I'll stick my arm in the cuff just to check what my blood pressure's at. Okay. Don't check your blood pressure after a workout. Okay. So you want to make sure when you check your blood pressure, you do it far away from the workout because you're obviously, if you do a workout and you go check your blood pressure, it's going to be high. So it's not going to be an accurate number. Okay. So just be a little bit more intelligent, do your due diligence, be responsible, and make sure that you're taking care of not just your external health, but your internal health. All right. Okay, two more questions. Nick, do you ever train with your clients? I can't afford to work with you one-on-one, but do you offer discounted training sessions if a client trains with you during your workout? So, I've actually been asked this question before, and I know there's a lot of trainers that will train with their clients, and I don't know if they offer them discounted rates or not, but I have seen that, and I don't do that. Okay. Now, the reason I don't do that is because I'm a perfectionist in so many ways, but especially when it comes to training people. So, whenever I work with a client one-on-one, or even if it's a partner session, hell, even a group class, I want to give the person I'm working with or the people I'm working with my undivided attention. In order for me to do that, I have to be dialed in myself. I have to watch their form. I have to watch their technique. Okay. If I'm training, I can't squat 315 and then watch someone squat and then correct their form and technique. It just won't work for me because I'm going to be so focused on recovering. So it's almost like I'm going to be so selfish because my workout, I'm not going to be able to focus on what you are doing as my client. And therefore, I feel like even if I offered you a discounted rate, I feel like the service itself is diluted. Okay. I'm devaluing my own service. And I just can't do that. I just can't because every person I work with, whether it's a private partner or group class, I always give every person I work with my 100% undivided attention. Okay. So if I can't do that, why would I try to charge someone for that service? So no, I don't do that. I have trained with people over the years, but those aren't clients. Those are usually friends that have also competed with me over the years. So that's a little bit different because again, the people I've usually trained with know what they're doing in the gym. They don't need a trainer. They don't need a coach. They're fairly well versed when it comes to the exercises, anatomy, physiology. So I don't need to correct their form. I don't need to correct their technique. Yes, I can spot them, but even if they are doing something wrong, I'm not going to correct them because I'm more focused on my workout. And honestly, now as I'm getting older, I personally prefer to train on my own, just because it's the one part of the day where I can just kind of zone out. I mean, I'm talking to people all day long, whether it's online in meetings, whether it's with clients on the floor. So I'm constantly talking to people. So it's giving me that like 45 minutes of an hour where I can put my headphones on, zone out. Nobody bothers me when I train, and I just hit it with the weights, and that's it. So. It's not a service that I offer. My recommendation, though, if you can't afford to work with me in person, you can also work with me online where I can put together a customized training program for you along with a nutritional plan, and we can work together that way. That's a more cost-effective option than working with me in person. Okay. Want more information on that? Go to our website, foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me at fitcosgrove underscore. Email me, Nick at foreverfitperformance.com, and we can set that up for you. I work with a lot of clients online throughout North America. Both on their training program, nutritional plan, one or the other, or a combination of the two. Okay. So that's a really good cost effective way to work with me if you can't afford to work with me in person. All right. Okay. Last question. Nick, I train at my home gym and I only have access to dumbbells and a life fitness machine that has a few cable attachments on it. I also have a bench that is flat. Is this enough equipment to build muscle or do I need more? I'm laughing at the life fitness machines because I remember traveling to home gyms here downtown Vancouver when I used to train at building gyms. And those, it's not that they're bad machines, but they're just that. They're for home gyms. They're not commercial grade. And it's funny because if you're in a big apartment building, like here, I live in a city, so we don't have any houses. It's all apartment buildings, right? So you have these home gyms that have life fitness machines in them and they're not commercial grade. So they usually break down very easily. The cables become stiff or they start to rip. They're not, in my opinion, they're not good quality machines for commercial grade. They should just be at a home gym, as in someone who lives in a house and maybe they put it in their basement. Okay. Because then it's only like one or two people using it, and that's fine. But in my experience, life fitness machines are not the best for commercial grade anyway. But anyway, that's not your question. So, okay. So here's the thing. Any workout is better than no workout. Sure. Okay. But the more access that you have to different pieces of equipment, and when I mean pieces of equipment, I don't mean hammer strength machines, but I mean cable machines. I mean benches that go flat to incline to 90 degrees, um, squat racks, barbells, kettlebells. In my opinion, the better your results are going to be. Okay. Now, if all you have are dumbbells, yes, you can have a great workout. You can. There was a lot of people I worked with during COVID who didn't have access to a gym and they only had dumbbells. But now that COVID's, well, I don't want to say it's over, but now that people are back in the gyms again, they don't have to just have dumbbells available. Now they have barbells. Now they have cables. Now they have kettlebells. They have squat racks. So can you build muscle on dumbbells only? Absolutely. But can you build more muscle when you have access to barbells, to benches that actually do have different angles and allow you to hit different muscle groups? Because let's face it, if all you have access to is a flat bench, there's not much you can do on a flat bench. You could do some flat dumbbell presses, maybe some flat dumbbell flies, that's really about it. Maybe some flat skull crushers, push-ups, but you're limited. Whereas if you have a bench that can go from a flat to a low incline to a high incline to 90 degrees, wow, now you've just opened up a whole bunch of different muscle groups you can work from your shoulders to upper pectoralis major to pec minor. You could do some reverse rear delt flies. So there's so many more exercises that you can do just by having a bench that allows you to do different angles. It's about $400 more too. But if anyone's ever putting together a home gym, I always suggest that they buy benches that are retractable, not those flat benches. I personally think those things are garbage. So to answer your question, yes, you can build muscle, but there's a cap, right? Let's say your dumbbells go up to 50 pounds and that's heavy, but what if you are able to surpass 50 pounds? Like for me, when I do a shoulder press, my warm-up weight is 60 pounds. So if I was stuck in a gym that was 50 pounds, like, yeah, I could still get a decent workout. I'd probably do some pre-exhaust, maybe do some lateral raises and then pre-exhaust my shoulders and have to do the presses, obviously be harder. So maybe I could do the 50s then and be challenged. But it's nice to have more options. And it's nice to be able to do different angles because I always talk about how building the body is just a big game of geometry. And if you can maximize your angles and your planes and your ranges of motion, you're going to get great results. You're going to build perfect symmetry throughout your body. Okay. So, yes, you can build muscle if all you have access to are dumbbells and a life fitness machine and a flat bench, but you're going to build more muscle and a higher quality physique if you have access to barbells, kettlebells, commercial grade cables, okay? Benches that retract, kettlebells. All these pieces of equipment are more arsenal for your physique, and it's going to help you build a better physique, okay? So to answer that question, of course, I'm not trying to tell you don't train. It's better than nothing, absolutely. But it depends on how serious you are when it comes to your training and how far you want to take your physique. Okay. Because for me, I could not do a leg day without a squat rack. Just no. I need to have a barbell. I need to squat. I can't do a chest day without doing a barbell press, whether it's an inclined flat or both. I like to do both. Okay. So for me, that doesn't work. I can't do a shoulder day without a barbell military press because I know that these exercises help build muscle. Now, if I don't have the barbell, okay, fine. I guess I just have to use dumbbells, but I'm going to be missing something. And I'm not going to be able to build that same quality physique because I'm missing those compound lifts. Okay. So, take away from that what you will, but in my opinion, if you have access or you're able to have access to a better quality facility, my recommendation is to use that. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, August the 11th. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on Instagram at fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel, my online coaching business, as well as my in-house personal training business here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I truly do appreciate all of the support and feedback that I receive from each and every one of you. Thank you all again, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.